everyone, and welcome to St. Thomas the Apostle Church in Norwalk, Connecticut. Father Mirek here again, and I am glad to invite you to a mini-series of something that here at St. Thomas we call Jesus Meets Aristotle, lectures on ancient, medieval, contemporary, and very modern philosophy and Catholicism. Idea of such lessons was born over 15 years ago when a group of very inquisitive minds tried together to not only go deeper and deeper in the quest or search for the truth, but also to see how studies of philosophy can help our Catholic faith to express itself in much more coherent and practical and also better way. This first part of the series, I would like to call your mind to a question that eventually I hope you will be able to answer on a deeper and more fascinating level that you ever thought you might. Who am I? What is my destination? Am I alone in this vast universe or multiverses? Is anybody else out there? My friends, questions like this can be summed up, I think, in many ways by the one definition of the human being, human person. What does it mean to be a human person? Very often, I ask that question teaching your children and teenagers here in our 8th grade and confirmation preparation program. First, it seems like a very simple question. Why am I called person, human person? Initially, all the students think that it is so easy to answer. I am called the human person because, and then they recite entire catalog of different descriptions. But when we think of it on deeper level, I think it would be very good for us to see how that definition came to existence, came to fruition, came to operational level over the centuries. And I would like to show it to you maybe on 3 levels, different levels of inquiry. On scientific level, or from scientific perspective, from philosophical perspective, but also from religious or faith perspective. Because I strongly believe that only the combination of those 3 resources, canvases, levels of human understanding, scientific, philosophical, and religion put together, can give us a clearer and better picture or understanding of who we are and why we can be called a human person. First of all, when we think about science, we think about the age of enlightenment and very rapid scientific discovery age of the past century and now 21st century. But when we look deeper, from the very beginning of human experience, scientific methodology, experience, expertise was always part of the human endeavor, human inquiry. From the early atomists of the Greek philosophers like Democritus or Thales, we can see that they would like to see you and I only as a combination of very materialistic atoms, nothing else. With the birth of 2 big philosophical schools, Platonic idealism and Aristotelian school, of course, understanding of who am I as human being, human person, has been modified radically when Aristotle would say that I am maybe reassembling or more like thinking animal rationale, because my physicality, my constitution, my fiber reassembles all of the nature around me, yet somehow with my cognitive skills, with my mind, namely, I escape that nature. No other animal or creation around me can think per se. Only human person, human being can. And then with the development of modern different ideas, ideologies, and even hypotheses in the scientific world, we all have heard about the evolutionary synthesis. This is, of course, a theory based on Darwinian understanding of evolution, yet far from Darwin and his research itself, where the synthesis states that we are the level of organization of different structures and then interactions as our bodies, but then yet still stops here. That theory does not address really our purpose, maybe, our destiny, a deeper level of understanding of how we are so alone in this vast universe, or are we? And then yet, you see, on top of responses to scientific maybe level of understanding of who am I as human person, we can answer as Catholics, as believers, with questions that are very valid. Do we come from one couple of human beings, as the Catholic or Jewish tradition calls it, Adam and Eve, first parents, monogenesis, or do we come from the multiple families, individuals, polygenesis? Which theory is more plausible or verified better by the sciences today? Amazing question for the people of faith, because I hope you see right away it addresses entire opening chapter of the book of Genesis and the teachings of Jesus. On the other hand, we also understand the modern research on chromosomal Adam or mitochondrial Eve. Are the theories of early exodus from Africa plausible, or they find some really scientific basic data to be confronted and proven, or they are just still theories? You see, on top of this, for us as people of faith, I think it would be very important to go right away to second level of inquiry about the definition of human being, human person. Now, when we have said that we belong to the world of nature, we are part of it, we cannot escape it. On the other hand, we know that we are not fully spiritual beings yet. As the New Testament maybe would say, we're not angels yet. Maybe we are sitting with one leg on the one side of the fence and the other already in heaven, but we are not there yet, you see. We are still working consecutively for that push, for that evolution to become more self-aware and spiritual beings. But I hope you also see that those categories we just mentioned completely escape scientific research. They can be addressed nonetheless from that second perspective, philosophical or even third, religious perspective, as we speak about the development of the definition of the human person. And then philosophically speaking, human person, human being have been defined in so many ways that to go into details now will be counterproductive. But I think we can say something very constructive where it comes to Christian understanding and acceptance of some of the philosophical norms, terms, and ideas to better express faith and then phenomenon of Jesus and his message. Aristotelian school of thought of heliomorphism, in other words, constant flux of matter and form, is modified a little bit by the genius of the Middle Ages, and strictly from philosophical perspective, not really religious, by Thomas of Aquino, St. Thomas Aquinas, where that genius of the Middle Ages, who was more of a hippie of his time than real serious monk, he brings that modification of existence into the play, into the understanding of how universe and you and I operate. In other words, we can think right here in our mind, in our head, of the most unbelievable things you can imagine. For instance, squared circles. But show me one. You see, only because I can think of one, it does not mean one exists. Square circles don't exist. And that's that beauty, modification of St. Thomas, his Thomistic philosophy, his understanding of how things or universe works, or what the human person is, because he brings the validity, idea, and quite practical understanding of existence into the spectrum. Thomas says, for something to be real, it does need to exist. And you see that modification, that existence, especially for us, for people of faith, is a tremendous resource and then help to understanding our faith and our destiny. Because now we will operate on the levels or categories that maybe escape scientific experience, microscope or telescope, scientific lab, but then yet are absolutely valid discussions, inquiries, and also reflections when St. Thomas and his thought modifies the entire Aristotelian idea of philosophy and brings it into more coherent understanding of unity. Only then we can see where St. Thomas gets his aha moment from. Not only from his scientific and philosophical distinctions, studies, schooling, but from his deep faith when he meditates upon the part of the book of Exodus when Almighty God, as we call him Yahweh in our Catholic tradition, reveals to one of his chosen ones, Moses, God's real identity, real name of who he is. I am who am. And for St. Thomas, that part of scriptures, and you see how that philosophy and religion now maybe can be very helpful, go hand in hand to help us understand even something about God. Thomas says that revelation from the book of Exodus is about existence. God is. And existence is the essence of God. And those two only exist in God, in the entity we call the Almighty. But then yet, by analogies, we can now distinguish and see how important the existence is for the rational reality. And then, of course, speaking about different philosophical schools, especially maybe of the contemporary philosophies, my favorite ones are existential philosophies. And I call them philosophies because there is no only one existentialism. I strongly believe, after studying it for many years, that there is negative and positive existential philosophy. Negative, that would like to see only human experience leading us on to death or nothingness, where maybe even Jean-Paul Sartre would say that the other people are hell. We do not believe in that, based on the positive existential thinking after the father of existential philosophy, Søren Kierkegaard, where he also affirms that angst, that anxiety, that anxiousness of human spirit and human person, but then yet says, I am realized in my potential. It's either or. It's always a realization of my good traits and qualities or the bad ones. But then yet I have the freedom to do so. And following upon his thought, many of the sometimes Christian, sometimes Catholic, sometimes Jewish, sometimes non-believers of that school of existential positive very practical philosophy like Max Scheler, Martin Heidegger, Helmut Plessner even, and I would say maybe Jacques Mounier. People, philosophers who would like to create entirely new metaphysics of hope, like Gabriel Marcel, French Catholic philosopher, that I would like to present an episode on him because I think he can be very beneficial, especially for us in the 21st century, when we as human beings detached ourselves completely from the millennia of reflection about who we are. From that scientific, you see, we are only atoms, only material, materialistic, to entire ancient and medieval philosophy, bringing the validity of the component of human soul, spirit, you name it. And then now, I hope you see, my friends, that the third level, the third component of that reflection of human person, who am I, might go as very well as the religious reflection. Religiously speaking, from ancient mythogonies, understanding that gods and goddesses are just representation or personifications of the forces of nature human beings could not understand yet, to maybe polytheism, worshipping of many gods and goddesses, and that polytheism becomes eventually monolatry, worshipping of one god amongst many others, gives birth to monotheism, worshipping and believing in one God. And I hope you see how Jewish and Christian religion come here with understanding that there is only one Almighty Father, Father of us all. And then yet eventually the revelation of the Old Testament, the Jewish Bible or the Jewish scriptures, and the New Testament, Testament with Jesus, the New Testament, testifies to this understanding that as human beings we are much more than just data unfolding, than just random atoms interacting with each other, that we are children of God, that we have destiny, and all of us need eternal salvation, redemption that Jesus brings to make us whole again. And eventually, my friends, after reflections like this one, that first episode of our mini-series may be touching upon the point of who am I? Why am I called a human person? You will see that this idea promoted for 2,000 years, but the revelation coming from Jesus Christ, that I am a human person, existing individual, how scientifically, philosophically, and religiously loaded that statement is. When we take that statement apart, we can see clearly that yes, we belong still to the world of nature. And then yet nonetheless we escape that world of nature. What enables us to escape it cannot be measured in scientific lab, because it is our spirit, our soul, our mind, our ability of critical thinking. Yes, those components are still valid, and I would say as important as everything else material that can be measured, touched, and experienced in scientific lab. And I think only when we take them all together, scientific level, philosophical level, and religious level, we can have a better understanding of the vision or definition of the human person. I would like to leave you with a homework, a question that I ask year after year your children and teenagers, students in my 8th grade and confirmation preparation class. I ask them, dear students, when you go back home after class, ask your mom and dad, what do they think? Did Adam and Eve have belly buttons or not? At first it sounds very childish, maybe even a little silly, but I hope when you try to answer for yourself that question, how loaded with so many implications of monogenesis, polygenesis, and everything in between, answer to that question is. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope if you like that type of discussing, inquiry, and even questions about philosophy and religion, you can join us here at St. Thomas on Thursday evenings for our philosophy dinners. Otherwise, I will see you in next episode. God bless you all.